It's funny, we have a policy that we call the no ahole policy. I always thought, how does every company not have this?
This podcast is brought to you by HeyTaco, the only peer-to-peer recognition platform that uses tacos to help teams around the world share gratitude. I'm Doug.
I'm Una.
This is our podcast, Amazing Teams. All right, Bryan Christiansen, welcome to the Amazing Teams podcast.
Hey, a pleasure to be here.
Bryan, we're so excited to have you. And before we start diving into your amazing team, can you tell us more about who you are and what is Limble?
Yeah, so Bryan Christiansen, founder and CEO of Limble. I started the company about 9 years ago, and we are a B2B SaaS company that helps maintenance professionals around the world make sure to keep everything running. And so any of the buildings you go in, all the HVACs, they need to that keep it cool. They need to be maintained. The hat that Doug is wearing was made on a manufacturing line. Those need to be maintained. Basically, everything needs to be maintained, and our software empowers those that do that work.
How long has Limble been around?
Yeah, about 9 years. So almost a decade, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, we've been around for a little bit, and we got our first customer about 6 years ago.
Amazing. And then 250 people strong right now.
Yeah, just shy of 250.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a wild 9 years.
Okay, so after 9 years and 250 people, what do you think takes to build an amazing team in 140 characters or less?
Culture. But no, seriously, it's a whole bunch of different things. But culture is one of the core pillars on what it takes to build a phenomenal company. Your people are what solve everything, and how you get great people is a great culture. And so we could not have gotten the company to where it is today without very early on setting a phenomenal culture and cultivating that, so that everyone that joins us knows what our guiding principles are, why we're doing what we're doing, and they know personally what to do to make the company win.
I think both Doug and I listened or watched to your Moth Tacos video on YouTube, which we'll definitely link in this podcast so people can enjoy it. Greatly produced. Tell us more about what is Moth Tacos, culture, values, like where do we even start? How did you come up with all of those things?
Yeah, so I'll explain briefly what it is, and I'll talk about how we formed it. So Moth Tacos is an acronym for our core beliefs, our core values. In every culture, you have to have this value system, which basically lays out the DNA of who you are and what you should do. Personally, I think everyone should have a core value system in their personal life. This honestly just shouldn't be a company thing, but it amazes me if I'll ask a random person, what are your core values? They often can't explain it. Most people don't actually think through it. But anyways, with Limble, our core values are Moth Tacos. So we're merit-based. This means that if you do great here, we will reward you. We have countless stories of employees that like one of my favorite is one of our earliest employees. She joined us. I think she was like employee number 8, if I remember right. She came in as an SDR. For those that don't know what that role is, you basically pick up the phone and call people and convince them to take a demo to potentially buy Limble. It's a very, very difficult job. But she came in, I think she was 19 at the time. She just killed it. You know, she was calling more than anyone else, setting the most demos. The prospects loved her. And within a matter of a couple of years, she, went from making, I think originally it was like $65K a year, and now she's making like $155K. And this is like at 21. And I remember helping talk to her about her mom was like, no, you need to go back to college. You need to go back to college. And you're like, hey, you're buying a house. Don't go to college. Don't quit this job. You're going to be making even more here at Limble soon if you keep down this path. I mean, if that's not a story on merit-based where, someone comes in and kills it and within 2 years completely changes their life, I don't know what is. And so merit-based is a super important core value that is this social contract with our team that's, hey, if you do a great job, you will be rewarded for it. And again, there's countless stories across the company where that's happened. The next core value is what we call all in. And so all in is about passion. Like it's all about getting behind the mission that we have here, which is another key aspect of building a great company. You need to have a real reason that you're coming to work other than a paycheck. If you're just coming to work for a paycheck, I tell my team, if you're just coming to work for a paycheck, go work somewhere else. We don't want you. And this all on core value really is about that. Like we're changing the world. We empower those that empower everyone else through supporting the world. We have a saying, we empower the unsung heroes that support the world. And that means a lot to us. And that's very true, or very critical to what we're doing here. And that all in core value makes sure that we're finding people that have that knack of getting passionate about things. And so that's a super important core value. Right after that is what we call scrappy. We bootstrapped our company for a very long time, which for those that don't know, bootstrap means that we didn't go to VCs. We didn't get any money. It was just me with a whole bunch of caffeine originally coding. And then when we brought on people, we had that very scrappy mindset. It's like, no one's going to, ride in and save the day and give us a bunch of money or whatever. Like we need to grow the company based off of what our customers pay us, which means that we need to be constantly looking at what is the smartest return on investment for where we have our limited resources, whether that's time or cash. And so we built that into our value set, our core value set, so that all of our team is constantly thinking, how do we do things more efficiently? How do we be smart? And it's helped us control our destiny. It's a super important core value. The next core value is what we call transparency. I'm a firm believer that every single relationship, the cornerstone is the ability to be open and honest with each other. Again, this is whether it's personal or whether it's at work. Like if you have a relationship with someone and you're lying to them or you're hiding things from them, that's not a good relationship, period. And so this transparency core value facilitates communication across our entire team. Anyone can go to anyone and talk about just about anything. And that is like a superpower, because you're not hiding stuff from each other. And so you have all the information that you need to do your job. Also, if you mess up, like my team feels comfortable telling me, Bryan, you said something stupid. And it's because there's safe lines of communication, because they know how open I am and how willing I am to talk through even hard topics because of this transparency core value. It kind of forces you to be that way. And so transparency was a super, super, super important thing. The next one, the A in tacos, is attitude, which if you want to have a really hard time, go try a startup. The ups and downs are freaking insane. There was so many times where I thought everything was going to crash and burn. And what am I doing? Why am I even starting this company? All this craziness. And without the right attitude, it's like, screw that. I'm just going to keep going. It would have not been possible. The SDR that I mentioned earlier, she most definitely had hard times too, but she had the right attitude. And even though when she was calling people, some of them would hang up on her and just be like, no, screw off. She had two choices at that moment. Do I have the bad attitude where it's like, no, I can't call people, it's just not going to work? Or do you have the right attitude that goes, well, hey, they're having a bad day. We'll just ignore that, continue on. She had the right attitude and she succeeded. And so that attitude is a super, super, super important core value. And one of the big reasons why we win. Right after that, you have customer obsessed. Now, a lot of companies say they're customer obsessed. Very few people actually are. But it's such an important core value. We knew that we needed that there because that's who we are. And the customer obsession is all about making sure that you're doing it for the customers. You're not doing it to make money. You're doing it to help people. Money is an afterthought that happens from good actions of helping people. And that's just how I personally like to run businesses. And I tell my team all the time, our decisions are made on doing what's best for the customers. If you're a sales rep and you sell someone that is something they don't need, you'll get fired over that. If you're taking advantage of customers, that is not okay. No, it's so against this core value that it's a very, very serious thing. And luckily that's never happened. But that's because we lead with our culture, and people know, I can't do that because that's so far against our core values that I'd get in serious trouble if they would get in serious trouble if they did that. But that customer obsession is super, 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 super important. Everything we do is about our customer, and then right after that, it's about our team, which is the next core value: one team. This is a team sport, and building the company isn't a single person endeavor. What we're doing here is extremely difficult. We need an amazing team of amazing people that want to help each other out. And basically have the concept of servant leadership, where you lead people by serving, by helping. And this one team core value really helps make sure that everyone's on the same page, that, hey, we are here to make each other better, and we're here to serve our customers. And that's created such an amazing workplace where people can do their best work, make great friends at work, build like real lasting relationships, and just be way happier. And that's also been insanely impactful at our company. It's funny, we have a policy that we call the no asshole policy, and every single recruit that we hire laughs when they read that. And I always thought it was just like, how does every company not have this? Like, why why would you let an asshole in your company? You have to work with this person. Like whose great idea was that? And I understand the allure. Some assholes are great at sales or great at programming or whatever, so they like sneak in, but like screw that, kick them out. And so we just don't allow that at our company. And that's basically part of our one team core value, coming to life. And then the last core value we have is what we call solutionists. And so we only hire very bright people. And so we don't hire people and then tell them to shut up and do their job. We hire smart people that can come up with solutions. And whether you're, entry level SDR or you're, CRO, top of sales, right? Everyone can come up with solutions. And we want to empower our team to do that. And so we call it out as a core value. And so that is what they are. How we came up with them is a totally different story, but I'll pause there and see if you want me to go into that or a different topic.
I do have one question. I know, Doug, you want to jump in, but I don't want to lose this thread of thoughts. Tell me more about the no asshole policy. Do you know about, like, what does it actually say?
Oh, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory in this thread, where it's just, I can't remember the technical legalese that HR made me put in there. Because I was just like, no asshole policy. We don't need anything else.
Period.
But luckily, we have really great HR people that keep me out of trouble. And it's like, Bryan, maybe we should just say no jerk policy. It's like, no, this needs to be stronger and follow. But I don't know. I can't remember what exactly they added after it. So I don't know if they have a definition of what being an asshole is or whatever. But there's probably more in it, and they've updated it since I originally created it, years and years ago.
That's awesome. I watched the video and I gotta say it was super touching. I had goosebumps watching that video. I love the core values, especially the customer obsessed. And speaking of customer obsessed, I want to thank you and Limble for being a HeyTaco customer. I was taking a look and your team has given over 300,000 tacos in the past 3 years. And that's pretty incredible. So thank you again.
Yeah.
Bryan, I'm a little curious. So you're a self-taught full stack developer turned marketer turned entrepreneur. I'm really curious how your role at Limble has changed over the past 9 years. Una and I were talking today about my role at HeyTaco now that we're growing. And so I'm just curious to hear from you. What's your day like? Are you still in the code? Are you, shed some light on what Bryan does daily?
Yeah. I mean, my job has changed probably 50 times over the last 9 years. In the early days, I coded everything. I talked to every customer. I sold every customer. I did everything. And then as you get larger and you hire people that are better than you, of course they're going to take over those jobs. Then you go focus on the things that that only you can do as the CEO, or the areas that need the most problems to be solved. And so I'm not in the code anymore. I love coding, but I haven't coded for a while, which is it's sad. It does make me sad. I really, really, really love programming. But in order for the company to grow, you gotta hand it off, and you got to trust the team of brilliant people that you hired to do that. But it's kind of like handing off your baby, and it's like And so luckily we did that, and we have a phenomenal team, and they take really good care of that. As of today, what I'm doing, it's all about culture building. It's all about empowering my team. It's all about recruiting new team members. It's all about finding partners. Setting the vision of the company and better, articulating that really clearly. Because as we get bigger and bigger, and you're trying to lead, 250 people, that's very difficult in itself, where you just have to really set clearly, not just who we are and our value system, but do that on this is the strategy we're doing to help our whole new segment of customers, or, launch another product, or whatever the case may be. All of that needs to be communicated very clearly, and that's a whole bunch of work into itself.
Oh, I'm sure. You mentioned bootstrapping, and that's incredible. Did you ever imagine Limble growing to 250 people?
No, I mean, I wish I could say I was like super smart when I was young and I saw a gigantic market and I was like, I'm going to go take that over. But no, I wasn't nearly that smart. I just talked to, I was lucky enough to talk to some maintenance managers, and they expressed how painful the things they were running into because they couldn't track their maintenance and all that type of stuff. And I was like, okay, this is a great business idea. I could really help these people. I know I can code solutions to them, so I'm going to do that. And then, I started doing that. And before too long, I started seeing the opportunity. Investors were coming to me, and it was like, holy shit, this can be huge. Like way bigger than I ever thought, to the tunes of billions and billions of dollars. Where originally, my family, my father has a family business, and originally I was just like, I just want to beat that. Like, as long as I beat the family, like then I've won. And now every month we add the size of the family company and like a single month. And so it's it's been a wild, crazy dream come true.
That's awesome. Congrats on your success.
Thank you.
What does your family say to all that?
Oh, they love it. It's funny. They all have Limble shirts. They do all sorts of cool stuff, and I mean, they're very much happy. One really cool thing I did is set up trusts for all my nieces and nephews and put a little Limble stock in them. And so I kind of bought their support, I guess. But they're all super stoked for Limble because it impacts basically the entire family.
Is Limble public?
No.
Oh,
So just
okay.
my own private
Gotcha.
equity, being a founder. I put enough in there to on each of the nieces and nephews to help them pay for college in the future or whatever.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool day when I did that.
That's awesome.
Bryan, I want to learn more about how do you live these values every single day without being corporate-y and too lazy and kind of suits focused, right? You have a really awesome culture. It's really just authentic, down to earth. What do you do every day?
Yeah. Well, so first is I mean, there's a bunch of things that we do, but first is making sure that you're picking core values initially of who you are, not who you necessarily aspire to be. And sure, there can be some aspiration there, but if you're like, oh man, customers just really annoy me, I never want to talk to them, don't set a core value of customer success. You're going to have a nightmare trying to live it. If you aren't that core value and it goes against you so badly, try and figure out and strategize a different core value. And so first and foremost, how I make sure that I can live it and my team lives it is we just pick the right core values at the start. Me and the other co-founders got together and said, what about us caused us to win? And then we laid those out and said, okay, we want to find more people that have these core values and build it that way. And that's made it so much easier for us to live it because I never have to think, well, am I being transparent? Because I'm just naturally extremely transparent, sometimes to the horror of my co-founders on the Ask Me Anythings that we do, which is a totally different story. But anyways,
we'll get into that.
Yeah. So first is pick core values that you already are, at least to a large degree, already that. And then figure out different cadences and programs and stuff like that you can do to help the team see those. And so one of those ones, it's funny on where we found at HeyTaco, as I was looking through Slack trying to find plugins and add-ons to be able to help in our chat system promote our core values. And we just happened to come across HeyTaco, and I was like, oh, this was made for us. Like, this is just so much luck. Because here is a way to basically have a scoreboard of, giving tacos to each other, and it's a whole currency. It's basically like this little economy. And so what we did is I just started handing out tacos, and when I saw someone being customer obsessed, amazing job, Bob. Here's 5 tacos. Keep it up. And these tend to happen in channels where other people see. And then other employees started giving tacos to each other and calling out them living the different core values, which then gets those core values in front of people all the time. It's like, oh yeah, cool. I get a reward if I, helping a team member out, if I'm being scrappy, if I'm being, whatever. And so that was super, super impactful. And then we tied our swag to it. So if you want any great Limble shirts or Limble hats or AirPods, or like, we have some cool stuff in there, you get tacos, and you only can get tacos by living the core values. And so that reward system and in a public setting, make sure that the core values are front of mind for everyone. And so that was super, super, super important on getting the adoption of it. One other program that we do is, and this is for culture. There's not a specific core value called gratitude, but on every company meeting, we ask people, they hear me say it all the time, gratitude costs nothing, but it can mean the role to someone else, shout each other out. And then they get up and they shout each other out on core values or just job well done. And that is another way that their core values are constantly broadcasted to people. And it's super impactful. And I just think it's mentally healthy. It's just a good thing to do, whether it's a culture or not culture. Fostering gratitude is a core thing that makes people happy. And it's like, if you're going to be managing large groups of people, you probably should do that just because it's a good thing to do. But that most definitely helped with culture. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that we do. We do a yearly company retreat. We fly, like this next one, we're flying everyone to Mexico in February. And so getting people together there, it's all taco themed and all this other stuff, and core values are everywhere. That goes a long way to help with culture. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do. If you find yourself like putting them on the wall and just expecting people to follow them because they're on the wall, like that's not going to work. You need to set up real systems, put your personality into it, where it actually is fun to engage with and people enjoy it, or else they won't adopt it.
Can you share more about the transparency and the Ask Me Anything? Like what is the Ask Me Anything? How often do you do it?
So the Ask Me Anything it serves a couple of purposes. So first and foremost is to show that, hey, I really am transparent. So Ask Me Anything, it really is Ask Me Anything. Any employee can get up and ask me directly in a group setting, what are we doing with SDRs? Or what is this strategy? Or, hey, what do you think about this competitor? Or whatever. And I'll tell them. And with the exception of me not violating someone else's privacy, I'll answer the question. And so this gives an area for people to really test, is Bryan transparent? And sometimes it can be hard because, sometimes it's like, well, do I want to tell the entire company something that only 10 people know? Is that ready to like fully get out yet before we're ready to handle like all the change management? And we're transparent, so it does. And that gives a lot of trust to our team that we aren't like trying to hide anything from them, because they can come ask me at any point in time and, I'll talk about it. And that just does a really great job to promote that transparency. It also just helps the company get together and breaks through any of the hierarchies that you set up at a company, where anyone can talk to basically anyone about anything. And that also promotes transparency.
That's awesome. Can we try ask anything right now?
Well, this is a little bit more public than internal company meetings, so I have to be a tad careful on what I say. But yeah, I mean, you can ask away, and hopefully it's a topic you can talk about.
All right, I'll go first. At Limble, what is the most important thing to you?
The culture, the people on the culture. Yeah, and the customers. I mean, they're. You said at Limble, but I mean, those two things. That's what everything is the people, the culture, and the customers. And I see the culture and the team as in essence the same thing.
Okay, I have the next one. What's the hardest thing about your job?
That changes every day.
What about today? What's today the hardest thing?
I'm recruiting a C-suite, and those interviews are super mentally taxing to try and suss out, is this a good candidate, a good culture fit? Especially when you're hiring a C-level, they're going to set the culture, throughout the company. And obviously they'll spread the culture based on what's already there, but you mishire a C-suite and that has like different beliefs. and you could run into big problems. And so it's very mentally taxing doing some of these interviews to really try and suss out, are they skilled enough? Are they a good culture fit? Are they going to vibe well? Do all the things line up? And so that's one of the most challenging things recently, is just making sure that I nail those hires, because that would be a very bad hire to make a mistake on.
Nice. In hindsight, what's one thing you would have done differently 9 years ago when you're getting started?
Doing it faster. So, especially the first 3 years, I just, and to be fair, like I needed to learn like the lessons that I learned. But if I was doing it again, I would be able to do everything significantly faster in like half the time. So I wish I could go back to my earlier self and be like, hey, don't walk off that cliff. Don't run into that wall. Don't, hire that person. Don't, whatever. And I could do things so much faster. But yeah, there's a billion lessons learned.
You stole my question, Doug. So I have to think about the next one. Literally, I was going to ask the same thing. Okay, my question is, if someone's listening to you speak right now and they're running a 30, 40 person company and they're like, man, I hope I get to 250 people. What is one thing you would tell them to focus on when it comes to culture and team? Like a tactical thing of like, hey, before anything, just focus on this.
Yeah, well, so it would depend on the state on where they're at. So most people don't have it defined. And so if you're at that state, go define it. Take a couple days, take the core people you have, lock yourself in a room, and don't leave it until you have it defined. So that's the first thing. If you do have it defined and you're happy, it's like, yeah, this is who we are. Then the next thing to focus on is, how do you get the systems in place for people to actually see it all the time and live it? And so you could do a simple thing like HeyTaco. Just don't steal Moth Tacos. Like Chris, like we're still on the
TM.
Yeah. But find some system like I found HeyTaco that incentivizes people to actually engage in it. And then alongside that, I would probably do the gratitude thing, because all of those are really simple and easy to set up. It may feel a little bit awkward. Like the very first was like, wait, we're just going to say thank you to each other. Like, that's weird. And it's like, no, it's not weird. It's actually really cool. So don't let that initial weird feeling, like people are going to think we're weird. Like, screw what people think. Like it's a very healthy, good thing to do. There's countless books on it. You can read those. But if you have 30 or 40 people, you could set this whole thing up pretty quickly. And then you can hit the ground running. And by the time you're 250, if you do everything else right, you still have a really strong culture.
I love that. I'm kind of curious now, we're talking about it. Who, not, I guess, lack of a better word, who owns HeyTaco at Limble? Is it you, or is it moved into HR? I'm just kind of curious who owns gratitude at Limble.
Oh, I mean, technically, an entire company owns it, right?
Love it.
We all own the culture, right? But that being said, it's one of my primary responsibilities, right? And if you're a CEO and you think, I'm just going to outsource it or not outsource, but I'm going to just put it in HR, you're not doing it right. Like you lead from the top. HR is not going to be able to say, hey, everyone go be customer obsessed. It's like, it has to be you talking about it all the time. And it has to be from your team going sideways talking about it. So when a new recruit gets hired and brought on, well, I'll take a step back. Whenever we bring in a group of people, within the first, I think it's normally the first day, if not the first week, they do a meeting with me where I go over our culture, I go over core values, I go over why I started the business, why we're here to help people, et cetera, et cetera. And then as soon as they go out of that meeting, they start getting set with their peers. And they're all of a sudden, oh my God, yeah, my peer really does help me. Like Bryan wasn't just rambling crazily. Like this person is actually living one team. That's so weird. And I've countless times heard employees that just got started in a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months in go, it's like, everyone's still so nice. Like, this is so weird. And it's like, no, we don't have assholes and we help each other. And this is just what we do. And so you have to lead from the top, but you also have to set up the correct system so people are actually living it and they can influence from the sides. And if you do that, then you have a pretty robust, healthy culture.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's very clear why you've where you are with Limble and the success you've had. I subscribe to everything that you've just said. Well, as you know, with HeyTaco, everyone has 5 tacos to give each day to show gratitude. Who are you giving your 5 tacos today, and why?
Yeah, so in Slacks, whenever I see people do good things, I give out the tacos there. I kind of cheat, and I have a lot more tacos to give than others, and so it just varies. Like my daily limit, I think I set to like 100, and I don't give out that many. But every now and then, I'll just like shock people and be like, "Hey, here's 50 tacos to one," and then it causes people to drop off, and it's crazy and whatnot. So I'll give them to my direct reports. I'll give them to individual contributors, managers. Whenever I notice something, I try to do that. Also, I have managers, like if they see their employee doing, or not employee, their team member doing something great, sometimes they'll Slack me and say, "Hey, go shout, him or her out." And then, I go ahead and do it that way as well.
Brian, I'm going to push you on this one. What about today? Live from New York City, who are you giving your spoken tacos to?
I haven't given any out today. I've been in back-to-back meetings basically all day long, and I probably have like 300 Slack messages I have to catch up on. And so that's one of the things that I need to get better at, is baking a little bit of time in my day for emails, Slacks, tacos, that type of stuff. So nothing yet.
That sounds like they're coming.
They're coming. There's always tons of opportunities in Slacks to give out tacos. We have a channel we call Limble Wins, where people post wins from customers or other things like that, and those typically have great areas where it's like a CSM helped a customer, and the customer was like, "Holy cow, this is so amazing! I love this." Those are super easy to give tacos to. Where it's like, cool, customer obsessed right there, and so there's always opportunities.
That's awesome. Well, Bryan, thank you for coming on our podcast. Any last words for our listeners around culture, values, or any of the things we talked about today?
Just one last thing. The sooner you can start, the better. We did this when we had, it was just me and the first co-founders, so 4 people. And that was a huge, huge help. That doesn't mean if you're at 50 or 100, it's too late and all hope is lost. You still should do it then. But the sooner you can do it, the better. And again, it really doesn't take that much work to actually get the basics set up and going. So if you're like, crap, this sounds like too much, it's going to be too hard. It's not. Just start sooner rather than later. It gets significantly harder the larger you are. Start now.
That's a great point. Well, thanks again, Bryan. We really appreciate you coming on.
Anytime. Happy to help.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thanks for listening. One of the important things about building a team is gratitude. If you're looking to add more gratitude into your team, check out HeyTaco.com. We are clearly biased, but it really does work. Use the code AMAZINGTEAMS to receive 15% off for the first 3 months of your subscription.